chat. Please share the room out. We're going to post some information in the Jumbotron, your brother block right now, so I ain't posting anything anywhere. But other than that, what's going on, though, Ray and Professor? Paj and Miss Snacks, what y'all doing up to tonight?
Oh, we're doing well. How are you?
All is good, so big sis. How you feeling tonight? You ain't working too hard today, is you?
Oh, finally winding down.
I know that's right. For sure on that one. What's up, Professor? How you doing, bro? Professor must be in the Matrix, or either that on the phone call.
Oh yeah,
Paj, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
For sure. Go ahead, Todd.
Actually, Paj, she's the one that actually is going to be sharing her story with us tonight. So, we won't waste any time. Again, thank you to everybody that's in the space tonight. Make sure you guys go ahead and tweet it out. We're going to have a serious discussion tonight. This young lady's going to share her story with us, like I said, about life in medical school. So, Paj, if you're ready to start, we can go ahead and we can get into it right now. You can just for the space, just introduce yourself and just let everybody know about your, about what's going on in your life and the experiences you had as being a student at a medical school.
Okay. Thank you. So my name is Penny Jackson. Paj is just what I'm using on social media. And thank you to everyone here listening. I'm going to try to briefly go over my experience from applying to being enrolled at UT Southwestern's medical school up until the point where I was expelled. So a quick overview. This is basically how I went from being a merit scholar to being expelled in retaliation for a contract dispute. So applying to medical school, you do that a year earlier. You use 2 or 3 different systems depending on where you're applying nationally in the state of Texas, or if you're applying to DL schools as well. I applied and ended up with 4 acceptance offers. During that time, I was worried about paying for school, and as a veteran of 7 years, I decided to contact the vocational rehabilitation counselors at the VA. And I found out that I would be approved for funding and that they would be paying for my medical school, which was amazing. And that was regardless of whatever medical school that I chose to go to. But my first offer was from UT Southwestern early in the cycle, and their offer was amazing. It was a minimum of $200,000 that would be paid to me for school and cost of living. Obviously, no other school matched that, and so I decided to go with UT Southwestern. Starting at that school, you're just getting adjusted to medical school curriculum, and a lot of people are kind of shy and hesitant of sharing what their grades were. So a lot of people were top performers in undergraduate and medical school for the first time. They're probably struggling with the overload of information. So people aren't really talking to each other about their grades. So I realized that I was being graded different. Our first class of the semester, I think it was in our second exam that I went to the exam review. Sorry, was there a question?
No, it seemed like we had just lost you for a second, but you went back on. But no, go ahead, please, go ahead.
Okay. It was the second exam of the first semester, that I figured out that I was being graded differently. We had our anatomy exams, and the lab portion was short answers, basically. You'd have to write out whatever structure was there. When I went there to pick up my answer sheet, I noticed that initially they had scratched everyone off for this answer. And they realized that it was a mistake, and they went back and credited people. And this was really something small. It was a half of a point difference. They gave me a half a point back, and I saw another student, a Caucasian male, get a full point back. It was something that I pointed out, and it kind of basically flippantly dismissed and told, if it ever came down to a half a point, we assure you we give it to you if that was the difference between you passing or failing. So I moved on from that situation, but it did turn out that my grade was really close to passing in that class, but I did not pass it. In the first semester, they offered something called an incomplete. It was for if you scored close enough to passing, you didn't have to repeat the entire class. All you had to do was take the final exam over again over the summer or winter break. And so I qualified for that. Because of my scholarship that I had, it says that I was not allowed any more than 2 failures, actually more than 1 failure in the first semester. So I reached out to a dean of student affairs, Dr. Angela Mahalik, and I told her about my concerns and basically how this would affect my scholarship eligibility. There was another course that I was struggling with, and I wanted to just find out what would happen. In that meeting, it was kind of also flippant. I was told that, worst case scenario, I could just get loans like everybody else, and that would be fine. I did tell her that I was a veteran, that I had veteran funding, and it seemed like at that time, in retrospect, I did confirm this, is when they went onto their website and they changed the language of their scholarship eligibility form. And they did that to preemptively justify taking back my scholarship, where initially it said that you could not fail more than 1 course in the first semester. They changed it to you could not have more than 1 deficiency in that first semester. And deficiencies would include incompletes, in addition to failures. And so while I was going there to reach out and get help and find out how an incomplete would affect my scholarship versus a failure, someone made the decision to go and change that form on the website. And that form, we figured out using the Wayback Machine, had only been changed 3 times in the history of it being added there in the 10 years. And so it seemed really deliberate. After that, they did proceed with taking my scholarship. I did have an incomplete in the second course, and so I had 2 incompletes for the first semester. I was notified over the winter break that they did rescind my scholarship. They gave me 3 business days to appeal that decision. I appealed it, and it came back as they were not going to reinstate my scholarship. Noticing the change in the language, I decided to retain attorneys, and the attorneys reached out to the school over that break and over the the start of the second semester in January. Basically, when they reached out, or my attorneys reached out, the school general counsel told them that they were going to get back to my attorneys when they discovered how my grades were recorded at the time that they took my scholarship. They wanted to see if it was recorded as an incomplete or recorded as a failure. I had already had my unofficial transcript at the time, and I knew that it was incomplete. And so I assumed when they found out that it wasn't incomplete, they decided not to get back to my attorneys. They never did respond to me. And it had dawned on me later as to why they had decided that they were just going to force me out of the program. As for having the audacity to not accept them taking the scholarship away and changing the language. So along with that, I started to notice a lot of different discrepancies in how I was being graded versus others. And at the beginning of that semester, I wasn't aware of that. Again, people were really reluctant about sharing their grades in medical school, and a lot of the times you're just not discussing it. I noticed that our curves, which is pretty common in medical school, there's a lot of jokes about, getting a 70 on a medical school exam is the equivalent of making an A+ in undergrad. It's really the goal. It's where the cutoff is for pass or fail. This is a pass or fail curriculum, was 70. And curves were quite common after an exam, depending on how many people did poorly on it. They would credit back points. In the first semester, this was like 10, 11, 12 points. In the second semester, I noticed that it went down to like 2 points. I had no idea that it was just for me and not the entire class at the time. It wasn't until a respiratory course that I decided to just humble myself and ask a friend that I studied with how they were doing. And I found out from more than one person that they received double the points back that I did on rounds of curves. And so for each round, they received double than what I did. And just looking at that and having documentation of it, it was just alarming. If I were getting back the same points as my peers and my other classmates, then I would have been passing my exams. Instead, they artificially, I guess, flunked me out of the program, not expecting me to talk to other people and find out what curves they were getting back. And so I did reach out to appeal the course that this happened in. And I asked several different ways for what was the discrepancy in between why I received back fewer points than my peers. A class announcement even said that they threw out multiple questions because it was undertaught or deemed too difficult at our level. And after that announcement, even though he specified questions in plural, I only received one question back. And so I sent an email. I didn't want to say, hey, I already have proof that I'm being graded differently, but I sent an email and I wanted to just find out what would be the difference in between me not getting these questions back that you referenced, plural of, and I never received an answer. He CC'd the Office of Medical Education and the Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. Mahalik, again, and neither of them could provide me an answer as well. Basically, this continued until they just pushed me out of the program, which is where I'm at now.
In terms of at the university we're at, how many black people were actually there in the program with you, in terms of just black people and black women?
Okay, so this is one of the things they really like to boast about, their diversity. Our class was the most diverse in their history. I think we had roughly 30 to 40 black students. Of those, I believe 3 were black Americans.
So you're saying you had 30, 40 black people, but only 3 or 4 were black Americans?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, wow. Yeah, we kind of hear stuff about that, even in these programs, these medical programs and stuff, that a lot of foreign black people are in it, but not so much black Americans and stuff. If anybody can look in the Jumbotron, we posted the sister's information in there. We posted the actual article that we put on Newstoter, also her GoFundMe as well. So just at this current state right now, Podge, what are you doing exactly right now in terms of I know you got a lawyer, you're trying to pursue this, anything, but isn't it? I think from what I read in the article that they pretty much made it where you can't go to any other medical school or something.
Yes, that's correct. Applying for medical school, that's something that I really searched for, because the school that I ended up at was kind of my worst nightmare situation. Once you're accepted into a medical program, it's extremely difficult to transfer. The only way to do that is the school that you're currently at has to write a letter for you to transfer, which is what the situation I'm in now. I can't continue my medical education until my record is cleared at UT Southwestern and until this entire matter is fixed. And so for right now, I'm working with my attorneys and working on finding a job in the meantime during my gap year until I can return to medical school.
DJ, you got it. Go ahead.
Just wonder, is there any type of I'm not sure. I always went to trade school, so I don't know about the collegiate academic side. Is there like a EEOC type of place for schools where, like, the school was your employer, you had a discrepancy with them, you could go file a case with the EEOC? Who did you go file a case with on top of, with your lawyer or whatever the case may be?
So they do have EOC, that you could file with, but it's difficult to prove racism. I can't prove that anything that happened is because I'm black. I don't know what their motivations are. I could guess, but again, I can't prove that. Only thing that I can prove is what I do have in writing is that after confirming both sources of my funding, that I was graded differently. And so in addition to working with our attorneys. We are working on a LCME complaint, which is one of their accrediting bodies, and really just calling or focusing on how they are administering their exams, which is different from some other schools. A lot of schools are using national exams that have been vetted by professional exam writers. They take years developing these questions. The program that I was at didn't do that. They allowed their own professors to write their questions. And for each course, it was not uncommon for us to have 40 plus professors that would lecture different parts. And each one of the lecturers had to submit their questions for the exam. And they did their norming after the exams. And that kind of left a situation to where they could pick and choose who passed and failed by saying this question's bad, this one's not. But the general curve over the entire class should have been the same. And again, I just never received an answer as to why it was not.
Yeah, correct. I understand 100% what you're saying, that the prejudice and the racism part is difficult to prove because you're black, you're a woman. I've been through that. That's henceforth the EEOC question, where it's like, I caught my manager red-handed in a lie in front of another white manager. You know what I mean? And the other white managers obviously was just like flabbergasted what was going on, because I said, hey, well, look, if you said I was exonerated, there was only the three of us in the room, but if I'm exonerated from any wrongdoing with said customer, because the whole situation was caught on tape, that this customer was antagonizing me, didn't do anything wrong, but said walk away. But because I didn't listen to the security guard, you're going to terminate me. And I only been here for a few months, just had a 6-month review. Everything went swell, pretty much loved up here. So it's like, why you terminate me versus, going through like a basic protocol of retail, because I got like 30 years retail, where it's like, okay, you give me a warning. That never happened. A write-up. That never happened. Even the I never even got a suspension. It was just straight termination. So you would rather just give me a pink slip versus having to deal with whatever the fallout might be of said customer. But, you just said I was exonerated from any wrongdoing. So once I said it like that, his face got red. Oh, that's the devil look. You know what I mean? The other manager, like, damn, hold up a minute. What the hell going on? Like, you just put him in a loop. He didn't know. I could see by your face. So, yeah, I made it a race-based issue, but maybe even I went about it all wrong versus just maybe we know we're being, what's the word? We're having prejudiced things placed upon us. We're being, the school is showing their racism, their prejudice, the work environment. We see that all the time. But when you look up any EEOC case filed by a black person, American or other, it goes, swept under the rug. So it's like, how do we go about these race-based discrimination type cases if we can't go in and say, hey, look, you're terminating me because I'm black, or, I'm the smartest person in the class and I'm acing all my classes. And I've had that happen to me before too, where sorry about that. I was in a school and I kept having to show and prove for a different teacher versus them putting me in the class that I asked to be in. And it never happened. So it's like I'm still on the hook for some of that school money, even though I told them to send it back. So these schools are just a business, and not even to take up the whole conversation. It's really messed up with what these folks do to us, yo. This is why I keep emphasizing we got to get our own stuff. But go ahead, Podge.
Podge, let me ask you one question, because I know you said it was like 40 black people and 3 black Americans in that. The total class, what was the total number of students, like, regardless of race, all together, if you don't mind, if you can remember?
The total class was a little over 200. So around 220, I believe.
Okay. And let me ask you a question. Did any of the, I don't know, like, did you communicate with any of the other black students? Did any of them have any issues, similar issues of what you may have been facing? Or did it just seem particular that you or maybe black Americans were targeted or anything?
Being that there's so few of us, I don't really want to like put a target on them, but yes, there's other people experiencing some abnormalities. Yes.
No doubt. Like, yeah, I definitely don't want you to name people names or anything like that. But I was just wondering if maybe some of the other brothers and sisters also had some issues up in that class or in the program, I should say, as well too. DJ, you got your hand up. And anybody else also in the space and Miss Snacks, I know you may want to chime in as well too. So definitely, anybody that wants to speak tonight, please go ahead. Don't hesitate. And if you got any questions for the sister, like I said, as long as they're respectful, go ahead and please ask. Go ahead and request to speak. Raise your hand or whatever. Just, if you got anything that you like to ask the sister, then by all means, go ahead. Miss Snacks, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to follow up on what DJ said earlier about his experience, about how they oftentimes we find ourselves in these situations. The people who holding the pen will kind of jump to the most harsh option. Like instead of even getting a write up or a probationary period, they jump straight to pink slip. And in Penny's situation, it's very similar in that with medical schools, getting dismissed is very, very rare. That actually is not good for their statistics. It doesn't bode well for their program. Once they go through all the trouble of vetting people and admitting a very small number of all the people who apply, it's in their best interest for those people to not only finish the program, but go on and land great residencies and fellowships. It all helps their stats. So to go from recruiting someone as a merit scholar to them being dismissed within 2 semesters is very atypical. And I guess I'll couch all of this in allegedly. But in Penny's working through that program and meeting with mentors and various people, she was told that there are other students who obviously struggle. It's medical school. But there was even mention of a previous merit scholar, so the same program that she was admitted under, who was allowed to repeat the entire year and keep his scholarship while he gave it a second attempt for the entire year. But when it came down to her, that wasn't an option. Remediation went off the table. It was, we've determined that you can no longer practice medicine. And we're talking about discrepancies or falling short by a half a point here, 1 point there. If you look at the actual grade distribution for her class, and this may sound strange because everyone thinks these are really high excelling students, and they are, but medical school is a great volume of information. There are people scoring 30s, 40s in that range because you are expected to learn whole semesters worth of information in a couple of weeks. But somehow her coming just a point or two shy of 70 was somehow determined to be way too severe for her to continue. So there is kind of this short patience that comes along. And like she said, it's very hard to prove someone else's motivation. But in her situation, what can be proven is that at or around the time she asked about her scholarship, someone took it upon themselves to change the language and not inform her. And I really think that was kind of the thing that spelled her demise when she went and got an attorney to bring that to their attention. The school didn't appreciate that. They didn't like the fact that she pushed back and decided to get her out. I just want to share that part of it.
What I also like, and like I said, we put the actual article in the Jumbotron, is that you did a great job of detailing everything and showing the emails and everything else. So that's a great thing for your lawyers and whatnot to go back and trace and stuff like that. So you did an excellent job of just trying to go ahead and detail as much information as possible. And like you said, when you mentioned that how they changed that website and it hadn't been changed only maybe 3 times and stuff like that, that's something that really sticks out. So I'm definitely glad that you went ahead and you were able to go ahead and just note some of these specific things and whatnot. And like you were saying that and another thing that I know you didn't mention, because like I said, I read the article. I know one thing that was in this also, like you were saying, like they didn't take into account like your mental state and everything else from being actually being a veteran and whatnot as well too. That they should have also taken that into consideration as well too. And so there's a number of things that I think that you have going for you, and I'm glad that you were able to like just document so much of this stuff, because the documentation is definitely going to help you. So I'm glad that you were able to do that and pinpoint so many differences and deficiencies and stuff in what they're actually trying to do. It seems like from what I read that that they were all pretty much in cahoots together. And I know that I know we have to say allegedly, but it seems like pretty much once you have these universities and stuff like that, you have these people, the powers that be and stuff. When they see certain things happening, they will go ahead in unison and stand together. So I'm definitely glad that you went ahead and you documented so much of this stuff. Now, have you spoken to any major news outlets or anybody about your situation and what you're facing and everything else?
So we're in the process of trying to get more eyes on it. There are some interviews scheduled. There has been some people to reach out, but we haven't quite gotten a date scheduled yet. But that is in the works. And I wanted to mention something about the generalized anxiety disorder that I was diagnosed with before even starting medical school. That was really the basis of my appeal when they took my scholarship. Not only was I dealing with a change in medication for that, it was also dealing with some health issues with my father that I had to go home and help with. When I initially disclosed my generalized anxiety, I was told that there was nothing that they could do for anxiety. And the response back to my appeal letter regarding my scholarship, it essentially said, it's medical school, everyone has anxiety, but that's not really a big enough reason to justify giving back your scholarship. They didn't provide any accommodations until the second semester, and that's when they just provided a different testing environment. And I assumed that they kind of did that to cover themselves, but really after being dismissed is when I've kind of learned about other things that have been offered to people who had generalized anxiety, and finding out that one, they didn't believe that I had anxiety. They had to talk to my provider, and my provider told me that she spoke to them on the phone, and they disclosed that they didn't believe that anything was wrong with me because I'm so stoic all the time. And I kind of was taken back by that, but she sent in the paperwork for them to have me moved into a smaller testing environment. After being dismissed is when I learned that, in addition, they could have made me repeat the year. They didn't offer me that. They could have made me go through remediation. They took that off the table. But in addition to repeating the year, they could have offered me a leave of absence, which they didn't do. So they had a lot of different options that they could have offered to me, and it was kind of unusual that they just jumped directly to dismissal.
Yes, definitely keep pushing. Definitely keep pushing to get your story out there as much as possible too. Try to get as many eyeballs on it. Try to do as many interviews as you possibly can, because you definitely seem like you have a good case going for you. DJ, you got your hand back up.
Yeah, so you said before, I think it was maybe about a total of 200, 220 students. And out of that amount, there were maybe about 40 total black. But you said there were only 3 black Americans in the whole course of school or particular classes you were taking?
Yes, that I'm aware of. Yes.
Right. So basically, that's another thing we seem to be coming across, that the main demographic of black medical students or professionals are black Nigerian or other non-black Negro Americans. So it could have been a possibility that, and I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just making an educated guess here because I'm from New Jersey. I'll call this ground zero for immigration. You know what I mean? It's a strong possibility they could have got you up out of it, especially if other folks that were inside of the HR department, you know what I mean, the administration, rather, that's what you guys call it, were of the somewhat of the same non-black American race too, or they could have been Hispanic or Latino, and they could have got you up out of it too, or even the white folks, or it could have been just what Todd said, that they didn't like that you jumped the gun and went and got a lawyer versus maybe come and talk to them. And even if though you did speak to them, as you suggested before, they did nothing about it because they don't feel like they have to do anything about it because they could just do what they did, recently did to you, kick you out, expel you, do all this other stuff with no reasoning backing behind it that's even lawful. Because back to my situation, when I said, hey, look, I don't have to listen to the security guard. Well, I already know that because I've been doing retail most of my life. So I already know that most security guards in retail establishments are third-party hires by the company. So if anything, you have to listen to me, security guard, even if I was probably like a new employee. You see what I'm saying? So I don't have to listen to you about anything that's going on here. And once I said that to the main manager who was white that fired me too, like I said, his face just got red. So, you got to peep those facial expressions, Sister Pause. But go ahead, though, Ray.
Peace, everybody. So, first, Sister Pause, from veteran to veteran, I want to thank you for your service. Because people don't really understand what us veterans have to go through out here. So, I definitely want to first thank you for your service. This is more directed towards Miss Snacks. I know she's a little closer. She's pretty close with Tariq from what I know. I was going to ask her if she would be able to share this story with him. That way it could get out to everybody. Because once Tariq starts retweeting stuff, it tends to catch a lot of traction. And I can do what I can on my end. I can send it to Judge Joe Brown. I can send it to him. And see if I can get him to retweet it out. That way we can just get a bunch of eyes on this. So we're going to do what we can to help you out, sister. Just keep your head how can I say this? You just know we got your back. I just say it that way. We got your back.
Definitely. And before we kick it to you, Khalil, I'll just say, DJ, when you were talking about her getting a lawyer, like, I didn't mean that she jumped the gun, but I believe that she felt like she had no other option at that point because they were trying to put the squeeze on her. So I believe the sister did definitely the right thing by trying to go ahead and get her some representation because they were trying to push her out for whatever reason. They're not going to, most of these people in these universities and stuff like that, they're not going to sit up here and say it or whatever, but that's what they were trying to do, is trying to go ahead and force her on out. And they expect most of us, most of the time, not to fight back. They expect us to take whatever decision they hand to us and just go on about going our way. So definitely, sister, I'm glad you went ahead and did that. I hope you go ahead and you keep pushing and keep fighting for this. Like Ray said, Miss Snacks, like, I know you definitely, like I said, I've heard you on some of Tariq's spaces and stuff. So I'm sure she's going to go ahead and holler at Tariq as much as she can or whatever. And Ray, you definitely go ahead and holler at Judge Joe Brown and go ahead and like I said, send a jumbotron. We put it on Newstoter. We retweeted it, shared it in some Facebook groups and stuff like that. We want to go ahead and try to get this as much attention as possible. I wish that my platform was bigger, so we definitely could go ahead and really, really shake up a hornet's nest or whatever. But we'll try to do as much as we can. Ray, like you said, Judge Joe Brown is his cousin, so we've had the judge in a number of Twitter spaces in here. So we'll definitely try to see what we can do, sister, on your case, like, and definitely try to help you get there. And you deserve it. So, I mean, like you said, it's a big accomplishment. No, and Ms. Snack said it right. Nobody goes from being a damn merit scholar and in 2 years they giving you $200,000 to come in, all of a sudden you can't cut the mustard. I mean, that I find that very hard to believe, and the way they're changing things. Like I said, I read that article. The way they're changing things on the website and things that they never did before. That's why I said the documentation, and I like the way you went ahead and you went ahead and you added all of the emails and stuff like that. If you guys go to Newstoter and you read it, you won't see the actual emails, but I put most of the article on Newstoter, but you would have to click to read more to go and actually see it. And if you go to actual Medium where she put it at, you will see all of the detail, the noting that she put with the conversations and stuff that she had with the higher ups and stuff in the actual in the chain of command. So she did a great job of just time stamping that and whatnot. So definitely a smart idea on your part when you're dealing with these people. Plus, it's public record. Anytime you're dealing with universities and stuff like that, it's public record anyway. So always remember that if you're dealing with a state agency, a local, any kind of federal government, email is public. It's public information. So just always remember that when you're having a back and forth with these people and whatnot. Ms. Snacks, we'll get right back to you. Let's check out what Khalil said, and we'll get right back to you, sister. Khalil, go ahead and unmute your mic, bro.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I'm just coming in late. My question, and you probably may have already explained this, but was your anxiety detailed as a disability and documented with the powers that be? That's my question.
Initially, no. When I did disclose it, the first thing that I was told was that there's nothing that they can do. So they told me I could disclose it, but there'd be no point. There's nothing that they could really offer for generalized anxiety disorder. In the second semester, when I kind of pushed that more, they did reach out to my provider and they were able to set up a different testing location.
And do you have this anxiety disorder? Has it been documented within the disability establishment? Because this sounds a lot like it's disability, but if there's a history and it's been established, this can help in your favor, because disability nowadays, people don't want to pay, and these corporations are on the slippery slope. That's why I'm asking that. So you have more armor and more defense as well. But disability, that's what I was asking about. Thank you.
Okay, and so to touch on that, I mentioned that I had funding from the VA earlier through vocational rehab. That funding I was only eligible for because I was a veteran that was disabled. And my disability rating is for the anxiety. And that's why I had access to those funds and that I was approved for that. And so it was documented, I would say officially documented to the university in the second semester. But thank you.
Ms. Snacks, go ahead and unmute your mic, sister.
Yeah. One of the things I thought might be helpful for people to know, and I think Penny explained this earlier, with a lot of schools, your first 2 years is all just your coursework. You're getting ready to take what you need to pass, which is a STEP exam. That's a national exam you have to pass so that you can be deemed competent enough to move on and start doing clinicals. So while she's narrowly, failing exams at this school by a point here and a half a point there, she was taking these practice board exam questions for those blocks and was doing really well, falling in the 75, 85% range. So again, it's one of those things that make you wonder, like, what was going on behind closed doors when they're able to kind of pick and choose which questions to drop and how to set the curves. How is it she's always coming up a half of a bit short with them? But then if you're looking at the nationally standardized practice tests, blowing those out of the water. I really do think that a big piece of going through the accrediting body, which Penny mentioned is something she's working on now, is to file a formal appeal with LCME, is to have them look at the way the program is structured, because there is so much subjectivity built in. And just the cynical side of me, I think it's because they want the ability to pick and choose, help and hinder when they see fit. So by having themselves just kind of throw any sort of questions on an exam and then deciding on the back end, well, this question we determine is undertaught, this was too challenging, that's really not a scenario where you can ever guarantee that everyone's getting the exact same treatment. And the only other thing that I would mention is that when she would try to set up a meeting with them to actually go over, okay, if I'm a half a point off, can we look at some of the items that I submitted for challenge and see if we can go over them? That was flatly denied. At first, their excuse was COVID, that everything was electronic. So they didn't want to, share that information with her, electronically and have her potentially save those questions or threaten test security or give it to the next year's class. And that makes sense. But once they returned to campus and she could meet with them face to face, they still denied her the right to sit down and look at these items that she missed. So in truth, she really does not know which questions they deemed to be invalid, whether she missed them, whether she got them right. She was basically told, we're going to tell you this is your grade. You can't appeal it and it's final. And I think that type of position they take on everything, this is our decision and it's final, is what made her go ahead and get a lawyer to intervene on her behalf, because their appeals processes give very little wiggle room. And they don't have to explain anything to you. You have to just trust their word and go with it. And the fact that she got a lawyer to intervene about the contract, I think that's really what threatened them and made them move on to the more extreme action of forcing her out.
Definitely. I just donated to you, Penny. Like I say, let's go ahead and try to help this sister. If you can, go ahead. If you got $1 or $2 that you can donate, please go ahead and try to help the sister as much as possible. We need more and more Black doctors out there. And Penny, let me just ask you a question: if you're able to resolve this and resolve this situation and move on, have you looked at any potentially new destinations that you would like to go to medical school at?
Yes. So the smartest thing that I can come up with is just going to a school that had previously accepted me. Of course, it would be up to them whether or not they're going to extend that acceptance to an additional year. But if this is resolved and they can write the letter to get me transferred, it would be preferably to one of the schools that had already been accepted to.
Okay, no doubt. DJ, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, so much to say. Since I'm trying to think. Yeah, so Ms. Snacks, they don't have to tell you anything in these WPIs, white public institutions. This is the way they've been treating us for a long time, and this is not new information. Like I said, Paj, I would really do some research on the demographic of the class that was in there, just to see if it's like, you just being outnumbered as a Black American, because we have vital information that's what a lot of these immigrants do. Henceforth, you may understand that, well, Black Americans are delineating from everybody else. Either they fire bombers out of our neighborhood, these Mexicans on the West Coast, or these other immigrants, that's over here on the East Coast, Nigerians and other, they get us out of our work positions. This happened to me on numerous occasions. And the last job, that's the same thing happened. So it's like, you keep going through this nigga wake up moment. You feel what I'm saying? So yeah, I wish you the best, and hopefully you get this thing resolved. And I just shared the hell out of your story over my Facebook page, and I'll continue to share it. And then when I get some coin, I'll definitely donate to your GoFundMe for sure, sister.
Yeah, definitely. Um, like I say, I'm pretty sure, like you said, you already have your representation and things like that. Already, are pretty much already picked and whatnot. And I know he doesn't do. I know people always say Ben Crump and whatnot because he brings a name and whatnot, but I'm not sure exactly. Is there anything specifically that Ben Crump handles, or does he just pretty much handle anything? Because I know normally when you hear him, it's about somebody being killed or shot or something like that. But I wish you could like get a big gun, a big name like that as well too, to go ahead and push this forward even more. So, Miss Snacks, I know you got your hand up, so I'll let you go ahead and speak.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to again just kind of piggyback off what DJ set up about how sometimes, and I think for a lot of us as Black Americans, we tended up until pretty recently to kind of look at all diversity as pretty good, really not making much of a distinction between ourselves and people of color, not making much of a difference between, foundational Black Americans, foreign-born Black people. We tended to try and all kind of work as one block. And like Penny said, to her best of her knowledge, the number of people from her shared background who were Black Americans growing up in the South was pretty limited. And I think that it is important that we do pay attention to culture as well. Yes, we definitely need more Black doctors. I say the more, the better. But I do think it's important that we start to foster opportunities for Black Americans specifically, because our history with this nation is so different. Our roots with this nation are so different. And sometimes you need someone who can kind of speak to the Black population and Black patient population in a way they can really hear. But I also just wanted to say, to be fair, in case, I know this is recorded, it's being shared, and I know that lots of Penny's classmates have reached out to her in support. I think that's one thing that I do want to say is that students who aren't Black or may not be Black Americans, they're still experiencing some of the stressors of a program that's structured this way, because really a lot of stuff's going on behind the scenes that decides who gets ahead and who has a harder time. And I think she can even say she was a little bit surprised by the number of them that actually reached out once they got a hold of her story. So I do want to say that we're open to support from anybody. And so, but when we talk about wanting to get more Black American doctors out there, it's more so we can start fostering the type of relationships between doctors and patients that can really help kind of remove generations of stigma. We know how to talk to each other. We know how to reach each other in certain ways. So I do think it's really important that we try to be mindful of what the diversity really looks like when you start breaking down those numbers.
You made a very valid point, Ms. Nixon. And I'll be the first to admit that when I heard whenever somebody said black doctor or whatever, before we actually started doing this delineation and whatnot, I just, like you said, it was pretty much flat blackness to me. It was whether you were from Nigeria or you were from the Caribbean or you were from America, I just said, well, okay, well, it's a black doctor. So, it's a big win for us. And, I don't want to take away from anybody that comes from a different background and say black Americans, descendants of slaves or whatnot. But just the sheer fact that you see when we start seeing, because a lot of times I will hear people, some Nigerians and stuff say that we make up 80% of the black physicians and stuff like that. So that's a number that we definitely have to improve on. We definitely, with us being the biggest block of black people in this country, if anybody's making up 80% of black people in terms of doctors, I think we should definitely be the ones leading that. And that's, like you said, that's going to take more investment into black communities from us ourselves. We're going to have to actually use our dollars to fund and educate our people more. So we can't sit up here and then, gripe and complain that there's more Caribbean doctors or there's more Nigerian doctors or this and that, if we're not willing to invest into our people's future and invest into their success. So until we're really able to reach down in our pockets and really put our money where our mouth is, we're going to continue to see black people, black Americans and stuff, kind of, towards the bottom of being black physicians in this country. And we need that, like you said, with the shared history and everything that we've been through. We need more black American doctors. I'm not here to criticize or say that we don't need a diverse amount of doctors from the diaspora, because that's important as well too. But we definitely in a country because I'm pretty sure if we go to Nigeria, 80% of their doctors are not going to be black Americans. Or if we go to Jamaica, 80% of their doctors are not going to be black Americans. So we kind of have to tighten up a little bit here. If we really want to go ahead and do things that we want to do and try to further our agenda, and we need to go ahead and have more black professionals, whether it's doctors, lawyers, and stuff, with a black American background. And like I said, I have nothing against Caribbean, because some of my closest friends growing up was Caribbeans. I have nothing against Africans, anything like that. And I don't wish anybody any harm, and I wish them all the success in the world. I just like to see our people being the largest group of black people in this country, the ones who have gone through the most, the ones who have paid the biggest price, the one that have pretty much opened the door for everybody, whether that's black, Hispanic, or white Hispanic, or diaspora, or Asian, or whatever. I like to see us prosper and do things ourselves as well too. So we need more sisters like that. We need more black men. We need more black American men physicians as well. That's something. I mean, I can imagine the actual number of black male physicians. That's got to be pretty doggone low. I don't know the actual number, but I know it can't be too high. So we need more black male physicians to go along with the sisters up in the medical profession.
Agreed 100%, bro. Agreed 100%.
Khalil, I see you got your hand up, brother. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yes. And with your case that you have right now, and with the different people that you made mention of to share your story with, I would share this with your Congress people. I would share this with some PhDs up here that are fighting as well. I think the one of the 1619 project, I mean, all you could do is share your story and see what influence, if they can help or not. But I would share your story with these people as well, and just get the message out, because there are a lot of dark days that are ahead of us, believe it or not, and it's getting much apparent. So I would do that as well.
Does anyone know that if we have any HBCUs with any top medical programs around, anything like that? I know FAMU out here in Tallahassee, where I'm at, is one of the tops in terms of having a pharmacy program, anything. But does anybody know if there's any top notch HBCU medical schools out there anywhere? I mean, that's something that I know our HBCUs, that's something that we definitely could use.
So there are three HBCU medical school programs in the U.S. I applied to each of them. There's Howard's medical program. There's one combined with USC out in California, and there's another in Tennessee as well.
Okay. We definitely need more then. So that's definitely it's good that we have those, like I said, but we definitely, I know we have to have over 100, but close to 100 HBCUs, 50, 60 HBCUs. We have a lot, so we definitely need to have more medical programs available for the actual for actual Black people in this country too. So that would definitely help. Because then in that sense, you wouldn't have to worry about the discrimination that you're seeing going outside of that. Like you was talking about, DJ, about the white institutions and stuff like that. If we had more medical programs for our people, some of the issues that you face when you go out there into these people's background, because they really don't really want Black people really, in a lot of these spots too. I don't care what they say, but they really don't want you taking up a lot of these spots. So they feel that a lot of times that a Black person is there, that basically some kind of affirmative action case or quota and this and that. So that's why I say that the HBCUs having more programs available for our people and stuff like that would make sense. And the HBCUs need to do their part too and make sure that they're not just giving a bunch of scholarships away just to fill quotas for them to get more money, to having white students there and Latino students and Asians and stuff like that too. You have to hold some spots for our people. So first and foremost as well, you got it, DJ.
Yeah, so just to piggyback again off my story of something that happened well after with, containing the same information. So I said, instead of just me filing for employment, I'm just going back to work, right? So I wound up finding another job within like a couple of weeks or whatever, but I was collecting unemployment still just to, cover the bills. So accepted the job only to realize, because, I wasn't driving at the time, the bus schedule had shifted from a seasonal change or whatever. So the bus wasn't running at 5 in the morning on the nose, and I had to be at this particular job at 6 o'clock. So when I called the manager that hired me back, I said, hey, look, I got a renege on the job. It's just nobody's fault. It's just a bus issue. The transit, it's nobody's fault, because I would have to still catch another bus from that first bus at 5 in the morning to another bus just to make it to work at 6 in the morning. So reneged or whatever the case be. Well, I could have sworn she said, okay. I said, okay, no problem. Have a good one. This lady, Karen, wound up telling the unemployment that I refused work, and I had to go through a tribunal hearing just to get my unemployment back. Real talk.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, man. Is there anybody that hasn't spoken tonight that would like to add to the discussion too? Because we have some of our usual speakers in here. Pretty interesting dialogue. So if anybody would like to say something, then you're more than welcome to come up and add to the discussion. We definitely would like to hear some different opinions. If anybody's in there, I know a lot of times our usual viewers or listeners, they just pretty much like to come and listen and whatnot. So I definitely understand if you guys don't want to actually come up and say anything. So we definitely we're not going to hold the space open too long if anybody does not want to add to the discussion, because I feel like the sister did a very great job of explaining exactly what's going on at that university and more important, that medical school program. She gave a nice breakdown of the actual, to her knowledge, the best she could. She gave a great breakdown of the actual students, the ratio of Black, especially Black American students there. So we, like I said, we understand. We did a space, I don't know when, but we did a space talking about the actual I'm sorry about that. We did a space talking about the actual lack of Black physicians that we had. So if anybody would like to say something, you're more than welcome to come up.
Yeah, especially if your case, similar to mine's or Podge, these things don't change unless we speak about it and get the word out. You feel what I'm saying? Especially if, a federal government entity like the EEOC is always going to still ostracize us too and not even take our word, not investigate our case. So it's like, we're just worker bee slaves, and they always feel, well, we just go get another job, nigga. Don't even worry about what happened here or whatever the case be. But now, hold up a minute. you showed your prejudices, your racism, you discriminated against me. I'm not gonna let that slide. You know how we are. We ain't gonna let you have the last word, especially when we know we've been wrong and we did nothing wrong. So that be those issues too that we always got to think about. We did nothing wrong and we've been wrong. So like, who has our best interests at heart? It just seems like nobody. So what's the name of that particular federal entity, Paj, that is like the EEOC but for college issues or whatever again?
So there isn't a federal entity. It's between each school that you have title. That's not Title IX, but there's a certain title that you can contact about that. There's an officer that's going to be over that area that you can contact.
For sure. Yeah, anybody else that want to come up and speak, you're welcome to Khalil, Ray, Ms. Snacks, Positive, and anything else that you want to say. This is your space. You got the floor, Mom.
I just want to thank you guys for hosting this space and just ask for anyone who's listening. One of the biggest ways that you can help is to retweet her story and click on her page, and you'll see it's her pinned tweet. But also to make your own original tweet using the hashtags UTSW Horror, so that's UT Southwestern Horror, and using the hashtag MedTwitter. We're really trying to get this, in front of eyes of people who are in the field, so they can know about these types of challenges and we can start to affect change. But those hashtags again are hashtag UTSW Horror and hashtag MedTwitter. And thank you all for listening and for being a part of this conversation.
No problem. I see Black Majority State. You got your hand up. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hey, I was listening and I was trying to do online research. I found a case where a nursing student filed a whistleblower complaint about clinical time. So her attorneys went the whistleblower route. I don't know if that was mentioned, but that was something that could be something to look into. I know that different universities, they kept saying the employer, but it also said members of the community. And I'm not sure if that extends to students, but in this case, I could send it to Ms. Snacks to the DM. Seems to, say that just based on not providing adequate clinical time was a reason for this case to go through. So hopefully that'll help.
Right, that's definitely one instance right there. So a lot of these things, Black Majority, we know they just get swept under the rug, and I guess it will be more about the cases that really are not even on the Google or made the news. Kind of like Paj's story where we trying to just like get it out there, and hopefully somebody will see it to make it into the WPI newspapers. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like that's one hit right there. So now Paj, they can't say that you was the only one. You see that?
And we're going to go ahead and we're going to close the space out for the night. Paj and Miss Snacks, if you guys have anything that you like to go ahead and say before we close it out, you're more than welcome to.
I just want to piggyback on my sister said. Thank you, everyone who's here listening. Those of you retweeting, helping in any way that you can, I truly appreciate it. So, thank you.
Thank you, sister, and good luck to you. And Miss Snacks, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to also just say thank you and good night to everyone.
Thank you too, sister. DJ Ray, you guys got something you want to say before we go ahead and close it out?
Hey, Paj, I see Big Sis Online just came in the room. I think you two ladies should definitely connect. I know the career paths are different, but the stories are very similar. The career paths are different, but the stories are very similar. Not sure if you see her right there, Online. And Online, follow Paj, P-A-J right there. Y'all follow each other, all right? Connect in the background, learn each other's stories. Everybody follow these two sisters. They got two illmatic stories about, just work environment in general and being ostracized because of the WPIs. This is why we need our own. I'll yield there. Go ahead, Ray.
I'm gonna just be very short and sweet, sister. Make sure you keep going because that's what they want you to do is just let it go so they can just move on like nothing happened. So luckily for you, we have the new black media, so we need to get this to Professor Black True, to Reed, Jason Black, Marcel, NAACP, anything, just anybody that's willing to listen. So I definitely wish you the best, normally I try to contribute more, but I honestly don't really know what to say. If I do find anything, though, I make sure I send you a DM to, just help you in any way that I can. So, but I do wish you the best.
And I want to thank you, Posh, for coming, Penny, and just sharing your story with us tonight. It was a very valuable lesson and story for everybody to actually understand exactly the kind of nonsense that still goes along at these institutions of higher learning. So once again, thank you for coming in here and sharing your story. I know it may not be easy, but we definitely appreciate the courage that you showed, and just keep on. Just don't let anything sidetrack you or get you down. Just keep trying to push forward. Wish you the best of luck, and definitely I thank you and your sister both for always supporting the actual platform, Newstoter. Thank you, Miss Snacks. I know you always come through when you have a chance and whatnot, and I definitely really appreciate that, guys. So if you guys can, I think we already tweeted out the her GoFundMe. You guys can. If you can't contribute right now, please go ahead and bookmark that GoFundMe and contribute when you can. It'll be greatly appreciated. And once again, thank you guys. Tomorrow night we will be back at our regular time. Once again, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna have my girl. She's gonna be in here talking about R. Kelly, Secret Sister. So it's gonna be a for those of y'all that that enjoy like a real show, to say the least. We're gonna have one tomorrow night. So y'all make sure y'all check this out, because it's gonna be a discussion centered around the legacy and everything going on with R. Kelly. So y'all make sure y'all check us out at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It should be something else to behold, I believe. So until then, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Y'all have a good night, and everybody be safe and take care.
Speak.